Hey crew, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun project video we're going to be back over on the TOOCAA 40W diode laser engraver making a logo for my favorite anime, and that of course is One Piece. It is the pirate swashbuckling epic of Monkey D. Luffy in his elusive search to be the king of the pirates and also find the One Piece that the show is named for. Now, it was originally a manga that came out weekly. You know, there was weekly episodic episodes in comic format in the mangas, and then it transitioned into the anime, and I have seen all 1,100 plus episodes. There's a new episode pretty much every Sunday morning that is here in America. I don't know when it releases overseas. Of course, I have caught up so far with the anime that I'm having to do the subbed. There's a dub where it's English voice actors, and then there's the dub where it's English subtitles, and that is what I watch every Sunday morning with my coffee before we get ready to go to church. And I'm always eager to see what the next adventure of Monkey D. Luffy and the Straw Hat crew is. Now, the logo is the anime show logo, and I also think it's the manga logo as well. But I've got it loaded up onto the Lightburn software, and the file I picked up is off of the Maker World website. It was a free file to download, and please understand, because this is a show logo, I am making this as a piece of fan art, and I have no intentions to sell it or make a profit on it. I'm making it to display with a one-piece collection, if that makes any sense. But we're going to need some 1/4" material. I'm going to have to step over to the table saw and mill some down. I've got my poster board template here that's the same size as my honeycomb template. And I also use this when spray painting things to kind of prevent overspray on other pieces. But with this piece of cardboard, I can take it right over to the Rikon table saw, and dial it in to where I can quickly mill material down to the appropriate size that can fit on the laser bed. Now, this file is in two separate pieces. There's half of the logo with the skull and one on it, and then the other half that has peace on it, and then all of the decor, the nautical decor that goes around it and everything. But with the size of the file, we're going to be able to make it in one individual pass as opposed to having to come back, open, close the laser engraver. So I'm really excited to make this and share my love of an anime that means so much to me. I've seen others in the past, but One Piece is the one that stuck the most because of the pirate vibe. And since we need to get our material milled down, let's head over to the Rikon table saw after turning on our air filtration unit and get started, crew. And as I said before we get started, we're going to be over here at the Rikon table saw milling this piece of 1/4" material down to size to fit on the honeycomb spoil board. And even though I only need one piece, I'm going to go ahead while everything is set up and mill all the pieces down. And I'll take one of the pieces and load it onto the honeycomb spoil board of the TOOCAA 40W laser engraver. And I'll also use magnets to help hold it down and lock it in place to make sure it doesn't move during the lasering process. And I'll turn on the GoPro and shut the lid. And I am just adjusting the file to the proper size here. And then I'll frame it out. You'll see the head of the laser move to frame out the material. And before I hit start, I want to show you all the design we'll be making. Again, it's the classic One Piece anime logo, and I'll be able to get both sides of the logo in one single pass. And the simulation says it's only going to take around 20 minutes to laser cut everything. And now I've hit start on the laser, and you can see the smoke already being generated in the enclosure. That's why I always encourage people to have an enclosure when it comes to laser engraving. Of course, this is my traditional view at the laser, but this is also why I like to put the GoPro on the inside. But with this view here, of course, with the safety goggles on, I can step over periodically and make sure the laser is working properly and making sure that nothing has ignited or moved around to where it's affecting what the project is supposed to be. And here is that internal view. Again, the TOOCAA 40W laser has a dust extraction system, or a fume extraction system on it, should I say. That's that vent at the back of the enclosure, and it is piping away all of the smoke and fumes out of the workshop. Again, I think One Piece is just such an epic show. By no means is it a perfect show. It does have dips to where some of the episodes are kind of boring and monotonous, but 9 times out of 10, Luffy and the Straw Hat crew are battling the enemies in the show in their elusive search for the One Piece. After all of the lasering is done, I'll leave the laser sitting for around 5 minutes, and then I'll collect the pieces and take them over to the workbench here, and I'll use a scrap piece of 1/4 inch material here and a washer, and we'll do the washer technique to get a perfect backer board. And I'll cut the backer board out over on my Rikon scroll saw. Now, if I had a larger laser bed, I could have cut the backer board out as well on the laser. But I did want to do some scroll saw woodworking on this project, and before heading to the scroll saw, we'll go over here to the Delta bandsaw and cut the material down to a more manageable size. And then we'll quickly cut everything out with a number 5 Ultra reverse tooth blade. If you all like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you all to subscribe to my channel and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. But it only took around 3 minutes to cut this out entirely. And we have our first visual of what the finished design will look like. And I do want to sand the backer board up with 180 grit Klingspor Woodworking Shop sandpaper in the vibrating palm sander, and then I'll touch up the edges with a Klingspor sand and sponge here, and then it will be time to apply a splash of color. And I opted for blue and white for the logo itself, and then blue for the backer board. And both of these are Rust-Oleum spray paints. I figured the ocean blue would be the appropriate color for a pirate themed anime. But after it was dry to the touch, I assembled the 2 pieces with medium grade CA glue and activator, and I applied glue to both pieces because I was going to have to quickly line them up before the CA glue cured. But after they were in place, I sprayed activator and let it sit for around 5 minutes to completely dry and cure. And then I dusted it with our blower tool here to remove any excess dust or debris. And we finished it with a few coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss. And when it dried, our One Piece fan art logo for the One Piece anime was complete. So come along and join the crew, all your hopes and dreams. And here, crew, we have the finished One Piece anime logo, laser cut over on the TOOCAA 40W laser engraver, and I think it finished up beautifully. All of the details in the rope along the bottom of the logo going into the anchor that makes up the letter E came out nice and crisp. Of course, you can easily tell the Straw Hat Jolly Roger logo, and then the I in One Piece is, of course, the captain and main character of One Piece, and that is Monkey D. Luffy. I want to thank the original designer over on the Maker World website for designing this file. Again, it was a free file to download, and I just made it to the size that my laser could handle, the TOOCAA 40W diode laser engraver. And again, I love that laser. It's done everything I've asked it to do. Of course, anytime you step over to the laser, make sure you are wearing your safety UV goggles to protect your eyes, and make sure it's properly hooked up to a dust extraction unit to keep all the smoke and the fumes out of your garage or workshop. It took the laser around 20 minutes to laser cut the 2 pieces of 1/4 inch material that is the logo here, or the One Piece, out of the 2 pieces that make up the logo. You can see there the divide there where the two pieces were separated. We had it like stacked on top of each other over at the laser, as you've seen during the engraving and cutting process. And speaking of that, it was all laser cutting. My speed was 500. I done one pass. The power was, I think, 90% with air assist on, and again, it still took around 20 minutes. Now, if you wanted to make this project even bigger, you could make each individual piece a lot bigger, but you might have to go in separate passes if you have a laser similar to my size. But if you have a more larger laser bed, you could of course do it in one single piece and go in and edit it to where it does not have to be two pieces. But then we took the pieces and used the washer technique to get a perfect backer board with a piece of 1/4 inch plywood, and we cut that out at the Rikon scroll saw, and then we sanded up the backer board from the scroll saw work. It was relatively smooth, but still like to do some touch-up sanding. And then we were able to spray paint it with Rust-Oleum clear gloss, and I chose a white to make all of the details here stand out and pop. And then I chose a nice ocean blue color for the backer board because it is about pirates, it is about sailing on the high seas. Again, it's an anime that really draws me in with the characters, the character development. Again, with 1,100 plus episodes of the show itself, you can easily get invested with the characters, and they grow from episode 1 all the way up to 1,100 plus that they are now. And you see the great character development that Sensei Oda, the author of One Piece, has for the characters, and you can tell his love and passion for pirates. Blackbeard, the historical pirate, is one of the main villains in the One Piece anime, and you all know I love Blackbeard. He's my favorite historical pirate. He called North Carolina home, and I've been down to see the remains of his ship. But One Piece is one of those epic animes that you have to really get invested with due to the length of it. The comic books, the mangas are still coming out. The episodes are coming out. I think they're working on season 3 of the One Piece anime adaptation, where they go to the desert, the Alabasta saga, to help Princess Vivi liberate her kingdom from the evil crocodile. And so it's just a really cool anime to get invested with. There is dips in it for me personally, where there was some parts of the story where it was so slow for me, especially in the very beginning. I just had to kind of putter along with each individual episode, but once it finally kicked off into high gear, we were rocking and rolling. And Water 7 and the Thriller Bark arcs are still my favorite arcs in One Piece. But after everything had dried, the spray paint, the Rust-Oleum spray paint we used, we glued it together with medium grade CA glue and activator, and then gave it a few coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss that you can see reflected there in the lights of the workshop. Now, I could have used a thicker backer board, but I wanted this to be relatively light, so if I didn't put a hanger on the back, it could easily sit on a shelf and you wouldn't have to worry about the weight of the project, if that makes any sense. But One Piece, again, is just a great show with the character development. And again, this is fan art. I made it for myself, for my collection, and I'm not going to make a penny or a profit on it. I'm not going to take it to a craft fair and sell it or anything. Again, this is fan art, and I think it came out great. Options and versatility. Again, you could cut it out as one entire piece. You could make it bigger. You could make it smaller. I don't know how much smaller you could go because of the details here in the rope that goes around the bottom of the logo, so to speak. But you could play around with it. You could do different colors. I know the One Piece logo is actually a sky blue logo. Luffy is actually red. The logo is actually painted like the Straw Hat logo on the ships and everything. So options and versatility for the design are limitless as long as you keep an open mind when you look at a project and see all of the versatile options it has for making it. But really, really neat. And I also feel like you could cut this out totally on a scroll saw. You could save the SVG file as a JPEG line drawing, print it out, attach it to material, and go to your scroll saw if you felt like that. But I wanted to make another laser project this year, and I thought this one was appropriate since we still are in summer crew. I want to show you some One Piece stuff I don't have a lot of One Piece memorabilia. I've got a few One Piece shirts. I believe this was one of the first I got with just the Straw Hat crew logo on it, which is an iconic symbol in anime. But I do have the captain of the Straw Hat crew here, Monkey D. Luffy. This was an epically detailed character that I got when I really got into the anime, and he comes with an alternative head here that can pop on, because this is how he usually is with the straw hat, hence Straw Hat Luffy. But you can also take him off like he is in battle mode. He has a string around the hat in the show, so he just tucks the hat behind his head when he is fighting and everything. And he is a rubber man, so his body can stretch and he can manipulate his body. He ate the gum fruit, for those curious, so it allows his body to stretch and everything. But what is really neat about this, they do have weaknesses in the show, so anybody who eats one of the fruits that give them a special power, like Luffy has stretching, they lose their ability to swim in the ocean. And keep in mind, the majority of the show is out on the open sea, so they have to be very careful not to fall into the water. And if they do, they have to have another crew member who has not eaten one of the fruits, like Zoro, one of my favorite characters in the show, dive in and save those characters. But then I also ordered and put together some of the Grand Fleet collection, and I want to show those off before we close the video. The first one I got appropriately was the Going Merry, and this is the original pirate ship of the Straw Hat crew. These were flat pack pieces. You had to pop them out of the plastic pieces and put them together, and all of the stickers are very minute. But there is the Going Merry. They got her very early in the show, but then after a while the Going Merry took damage after so many battles. And if you want to know how invested you can get in the show, it was actually an emotional tearjerker moment when they had to finally, you know, destroy the Going Merry and let her sink to the bottom of the ocean. And then they got the Thousand Sunny, which is still the actual pirate ship that is there now. A lot more detailed. It's got the line on the front, and they call it Sunny. I think it's called Sunny Go in the Japanese translation, but over here in America it's called the Thousand Sunny. It has the cannon on the back to where they can make a quick escape, so basically it will blast them through the water to help escape enemies. And they all come with these water bases here, so that is really cool. And then I got the Baratier, which is the ship, which is the restaurant ship in the show, very early in the show when they are getting Sanji, the ship's cook. And I got this one here. There's like 10 or 15 of these ships in the collection. I've only got 4 of them. I've got one more to show you. But this one here, when they got to this, the Baratier, that is when I finally decided, hey, this show's actually clicking with me, and I actually started enjoying. Again, it was a very slow pacing to start off, but again, once it gets into a high gear, it never lets up. So I had to get the Baratier, and all of those windows there are individual stickers. I was using one of my grandmother's sewing needles at the time to put the sticker on and go in there and carefully put them on the pieces, and I think they all came out great. And then the last one I got was Garp's warship. Now this is a Marine ship. You can see the Marine thing there, HQ3, Headquarters 3. It's got the dog on it, and this is piloted and captained by Luffy's grandfather, who is a Marine Vice Admiral. So they are constantly clashing back and forth because his grandfather wanted him to be a Marine. Luffy wanted to be a pirate and chase after the elusive One Piece. So they are always butting heads. They don't want to see harm come to each other, but they always have that friction in like a father-son type dynamic. But really, really neat. Really happy to finally get to show off that collection in full. And I was happy to make a proper collection to add to a display if I ever want to make a one-piece display. As for now, I'm going to put a hanger on it, and I'm going to probably hang it in the Hot Wheels and Nostalgia room, just so people know when they come over to visit that I am a true passionate fan of the One Piece anime. I would love to go back and read, because I'm a fan of the anime. I have not read all of the mangas from issue 1 all the way up to 100 plus right now. I just haven't had the time to collect them all. I bought the first one and read through it, and the anime was such a faithful adaptation to it. But I know, you know, sometimes when you go from page to screen, there is differences in them. Just like with a Stephen King book, the movies are always different than the book. But I'm so happy to have this, and again, I think it came out great. And I hope along the way in today's video you all picked up a tip, trick, or tidbit when it comes to laser engraving and making a project like this and bringing it to life. One more look at it. The anime One Piece logo fan art. Really, really cool. That's going to be about all for this one, crew. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that subscribe button and follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social media feeds will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, crew. And remember, if I can make it or do it, so can you all. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you all real soon.